There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it.
You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin.
Miles Town, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. I'm feeling those vibes today, let me tell you. So this is episode number 46, BCH versus BTC protocol upgrades and Florida adoption, featuring Ryan Giffin and special guest, at least for the first half hour apparently, Marc Falzon. Today is Wednesday, the 27th of April, 2022. I'm Jeremy. Jed is producing the show. Ryan's been on the show before, and it's just over 1 year since his first appearance in episode 15. So I guess we'll do a little bit of a run back of what that was, but people might have also heard him on the Christmas episode. I think that was episode number 35, but he's a BCH content creator, avid peer-to-peer cash fan, entrepreneur, adoption spreader, and Mark is kind of similar, I guess. Does a lot of BCH content, being spreading the good word and making some quality documentaries of the El Salvador situation, which we've covered on this show a little bit before, and also the adoption in St. Kitts and now in Florida. So yeah, both of you welcome to the show, but I guess we'll start with Mark, since he's new and he's on a clock. How'd you get into Bitcoin? Give the audience the rundown for those who don't know you.
Well, I was never interested in it at all. No interest. For years I knew about it and just didn't care. But what ended up happening is my friend gave me, I think it was like $50, and said, record a video of yourself trying crypto for the first time. So I did. And I took his $50 and I left it in there after the video was over. And over time, I started getting notifications in the Bitcoin.com wallet, and I started seeing the price would change. And I said, oh, it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize, first off, that there were other currencies, other cryptos. I thought it was just Bitcoin. There was nothing else. And at some point, I realized that some people actually use it as money, which is baffling to me. So I did a video where I spent 3 days, 72 hours, only using cryptocurrency as a complete beginner. And that's where I was exposed to the differences between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and kind of the frustrations I had surrounding that. And as I started learning more after that experience, I started getting more interested in Bitcoin Cash and the implications that it has for the greater financial world and for people in third world countries, and actually really anyone who values their financial agency, personal financial agency.
Yeah, and I'm super interested actually to get your thoughts on. I think back maybe a year ago, maybe about the time or slightly after that, Ryan was on that first episode, and you were making this content and then this sort of El Salvador stuff and so on. I sort of predicted that over time you were sort of more neutral initially, like, oh, I'll use BTC, I'll use BCH, I'll use Dash, I'll use Monero, I'll use whatever works, kind of thing. And I'm sure you still probably got some of those same opinions, but I kind of predicted that, similar to Kim.com, who had the same thing. He came in, he was just trying to be reasonable with everyone. That's a very reasonable position to start from. But then over time, you basically had some more beefs with the kind of BTC side and sort of learned the hard lessons that everybody slowly does, and you've kind of focused a bit more on BCH, and I guess also getting funded on Flipstarter. You kind of want to pay that back. But would you say that's accurate? How has it been in that time producing crypto content?
I will say what I believe. And one of the things that I've done with my channel that makes it maybe different than some other channels is all of the experiences, all of the conclusions that I've come to, right? I love Bitcoin Cash. I love Monero. I think that Bitcoin is really not a great long-term crypto. All of these conclusions came from things that are recorded in live time. All my videos show all of the things that I experience that lead me to the conclusions that I have, rather than coming in and having a conclusion and making a video around it. So I like to joke around with people, but it is true. Tomorrow I could wake up and be a BTC maximalist, or even be a Peter Schiff, where I do not believe in crypto whatsoever. If that happens, you better believe there'll be a video up that shows what I experience and why I come to that conclusion. So I'm very open to having my mind changed. And in this stage of my, let's say, involvement in crypto, it's pretty clear that Bitcoin Cash really has the best chance of becoming, let's say, a world reserve currency. It does everything right. Obviously, that could change if I'm exposed to information that I don't know. But I like to be open-minded. So I wouldn't say so much that I try to be neutral. It's just that I don't know, and I learn, and I just show in my channel what I'm learning and the conclusions and takeaways that I have. And I hope that people that watch my channel can get a wider perspective on cryptocurrency beyond just the talking points and the memes that come from things like BTC, right? When you actually try to use it and experience it, and when you're logical and disconnect your emotions from it, it's hard to justify, the hodl mentality in BTC when it doesn't have a real use case. So, many people would interpret that as being very pro BCH, and of course I'm pro BCH, but it's more just let's remove our personal feelings from it and how does stuff work. Bitcoin Cash works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super interesting, right? Because that's a completely, fair and reasonable take, and it kind of comes to this point that all the cryptocurrencies in the market are sort of vying for people's attention, right? Like it's literally that live market input, that is each coin is trying to attract content creators, it's trying to attract entrepreneurs, it's trying to attract consumers, it's trying to attract developers. And while some minority of people, such as myself, or obviously there's many others, might have kind of an ideological or a historical reasons that will bias them to specific coins over some sort of like entirely rational analysis, right? Well, I mean, I might be able to say, okay, I think it's rational. I like BCH, for all these reasons. Like I like the founding myth with Satoshi, and another coin can't replicate that. But I can wrap it up however I want, right? The point is, it's not, to me, it's not like strictly a numbers game that, okay, if Dash had cheaper transaction fees, I'd switch tomorrow. Like that wouldn't happen. But obviously, yeah, maybe you, or maybe there's different other people who are more in that. In fact, that will be the majority of people. So it's quite imperative that for a coin to win, it has to be making like a very, very compelling case to everybody, right? Regardless of any other kind of like separate narrative or reasons that people get involved, especially to have staying power as well too. Yeah, I don't know, Ryan, any thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I've always appreciated Mark's journalistic work. I think trying not to come in overly biased and just arrive at conclusions has done a lot of good for Bitcoin Cash, coming out of an emotional civil war during the last cycle. So I think he was such a breath of fresh air, and also Kim, and just try to have logical conversations about competing currencies. And I just want to thank you for having me back on the show, Jeremy. I remember a year ago, I remember being so excited. I watched some of your first podcasts, and just your perspective and the way you branded yourself and how much work you put into the show behind the scenes to make the slides. I would say I was anxiously excited. I felt like I was going like on a first day, and here we are a year later, built a friendship and building in the community together. So I want to thank you for having me back. And I've learned so much over this past year and done a lot more learning more how to build in the community and bring value. So, and learn a lot from Mark, and it's what it's all about. This community, it's an ecosystem we're creating and making larger. And it's a lot of the work that we've been doing down here, and have had such a fun time and had high conversion ratio of more adoption in the area. again, with Mark's help and what I've learned from what they're doing in St. Kitts, and really excited for the future of Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. Okay. So let's chat about that a bit then. On the first slide, I've got some podcast news. So I like to do, if there's anything specific to the podcast, I like to throw it in kind of right at the start, because maybe people fuck off and they don't listen to the whole thing, you know. So this week, if any listeners of the show haven't heard it or whatever, so I released a song, my second song, called Changing the Game, featuring Nick Chase. And the reason I want to highlight it is because there's a reason that I you know, the song's kind of about, we got to kick it up a level basically, and we got to just like blow past all the haters is kind of the theme of the song. And that's kind of what I'm feeling now. When I think about 1 year ago when we were talking and stuff, it was more sort of germination stage, like you were kind of talking about, I'm gonna have this like golf tournament, and you know, but there wasn't the El Salvador stuff, there wasn't, you know, there was like a whole cycle of price hype was kind of still in the news and everything like that, and Bitcoin Cash was still sort of feeling its way out of the fork with eCash. SmartBCH hadn't been announced or launched at all. And when you just think back to all of that, I think where are we now? I sort of feel like if we compare, last year it was sort of very germinating stuff, but from this year to next year, I feel like this is our chance to really like kick it up a gear. Like all this stuff with Canada, all the things that have happened in the world, this is going to be a pretty important year in terms of actually making it happen, making it fly. And then if BCH is going to be the number one crypto firstly, and then the number one currency in the world, we're going to have to act like it. We got to just put up results and numbers and make an impact that is just undeniable, right? Where it's just not Ponzi scheming hype, it's not some Twitter fad, it's not some, you know, celebrity who endorses it to make a quick buck or whatever. It's an actual organic community putting in massive hours and working smart. Obviously you got to work smart as well as work hard, and have, you know, best in tools, like the best tools, the best resources, and the best, you know, communication network among the community. And I think we're starting to see that happen. Like this podcast itself is kind of an example of that. But you're seeing as time goes on from after the fork, and I said, look, we probably won't have another fork. In fact, I think we're further away from a fork than ever, because people are starting to link up and team up, and these things are starting to roll. And I'm amazed to see that, right? So anyway, that was why I made this song, and I hope it's giving people those kind of vibes. And it ties into this documentary as well, which came out. So it was actually out previously. It was called Quien Mató Bitcoin. It was from the guys in Argentina, but it was in Spanish. So a lot of people, you know, didn't didn't watch it and everything. So I did help them out, and we did a translation and a voiceover in English and re-released it this week. It's been really, really popular, and I'm actually very keen as well to hear Mark's take, because he's also made a crypto documentary on the dark side of Bitcoin in El Salvador. So we're actually going to have a little playlist going here of like, you know, crypto documentaries that people can just sit down and just watch and get the message in a couple of hours as to like, wow, all this, you know, deep dive on this stuff. So yeah, any thoughts on either of these two things?
Nick is interesting. So Nick is a friend of mine, and I'm actually the person that brought him into the BCH community. His story, he hasn't released it, and I can't really talk too much about it because I want him to be the storyteller, but he has a story that's not too unlike Roger Ver. And his connection with crypto is pretty personal, and a great example as to why crypto is so necessary to begin with. So I'm excited for him to at some point share his story. As far as the Bitcoin documentary, it's on my phone. Mm-hmm. I got YouTube Premium, so it'll be what I watch on my flight back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
Not yet. Yeah, no, too busy doing all the
being busy. Yeah, exactly. Wow, you've just been.
So I did watch it as soon as it came out. Like I stopped everything I was doing, and I really enjoyed it, Jeremy. And actually, I watched it because Ian Blast messaged it to me and told me to watch it. And I actually have a relatively further commute on the way home. and I started listening to it, and it just grabbed me. And it's the best documentary I've ever seen on Bitcoin, and it was the best narrated one as well.
Definitely not. There's a few moments, and the audio is definitely a bit patchy in there, but
no. So yeah, when Ian sent it to me, I've been looking for like a great documentary like that. So I think that what's really cool along with that documentary and a lot of Mark's work is that we're getting a lot of great quality content telling the story. Because if it's just someone coming on the phone, it's not going to engage as many people and spread to a wider audience. It's just going to get the enthusiasts. So I've already shared it with other people that are just new to the network, and they're, what is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin Cash? Wow, show them this documentary, and it's pretty clear to see, what the real innovation here was. And it marvelous job. Really enjoyed it. And the rap song, I got it by the second verse. I was like, holy cow, man, Jeremy can spit. Like I was super blown away with that too, man. So some really great stuff. Every week there's something great coming out of the community, man. Just incredible work. And really glad to be a part of it. And I feel like and you gave me some really encouraging words too when I came back from St. Kitts, how much you enjoyed the documentary too. So it just makes me really excited to keep on putting out great work, and the community really enjoys it and embraces it.
Yeah, quick shout out to Laetona Vigilancia, who's the guy responsible for the documentary. Originally, he's in the chat right now, and he says, "Thanks, Ryan. Love to hear that." So yet again, just more connections, forming in the community, and obviously it is a decentralized thing. That's a major, I want to say, fault, kind of in quotation marks, of Bitcoin Cash is there is no marketing department. We are the marketing department, right? A lot of other coins, they have their big centralized VC stash, and they have somebody who's on a payroll somewhere. I went to a crypto meetup recently, and there was some guy came up to me, and he was shilling me this coin and that coin. He told me he was getting paid by the blockchain. I said, what are you talking about, man? Like, and he's explaining to me, there's Coinbase, have invested all this money. Oh, okay, so that's who's paying you, whether or not it's like the blockchain itself. It wasn't the blockchain paying him, unless you're mining, or like we've got flip starters, right, which is completely different to what he was talking about, which is somebody's just got a huge stash of money, which it's not even really from the blockchain. It's actually just a big pile of fiat, and he was getting put on the payroll to kind of go out and shill it. So that's where BCH has to really stand out as an organic grassroots movement in terms of creating content. And I think that kind of has a slower ramp up time, where it takes a little while for like learning how to do this podcast. Or Mark, you already had a lot of content background, so you're already making pretty slick stuff, but then you get interested, and then some other people start learning from that, and whatever, and it kind of snowballs. So it's slower to start, but it just becomes crushing and overwhelming if we can get a decent amount of momentum going, because there's like an unlimited pool of funds theoretically. If you have you don't have to scale up a marketing department and have more hierarchy and problems along the way. You just have an organic sea of independent stuff, and the best of it just getting like collated by the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I guess is our job, and then to get it in front of people. So but I think they'll find us as well too. I think people are waking up to this stuff on their own. But
yeah, I think it's very empowering when you explain to someone, we'll onboard businesses like we've been doing, and they'll be like, well, what do you get out of this? Well, I'm like, well, I mean, beyond like a philosophical view I want of the world, the more people that have, want to use the currency, and the more we can spread it, we are the network. And the more my coins will become valuable, the more people that use it and find it useful, So it's not that I'm going to make money by onboarding you. So if you go in there and give them every tool to do it, then there's no reason not to do it. And if you overcome every objection, it's really incredible. And we'll explain more on that. I don't want to take away from the slide, but some tips that we'll be sharing with everyone to, you could do this in every part of the world. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's crack on then with, we got to hit the price as always. USD $306 per BCH, and one BTC is 127.9 BCH this week. We were just ahead of ApeCoin, which has come out of nowhere, and I kind of wanted to point them out, because what have they got? Absolutely nothing except hype. That's the exact opposite of what I was just talking about, but it just kind of proves the point. And I saw some guy on Twitter just said, "How is BCH still in the top 25?" And I was like, that's just how you know. How is, you know, ApeCoin getting into the top 25? But Mark, every guest on the show explains, like, do they follow the price regularly? How much are they impacted about that? How do they handle the volatility? What's your approach to price?
I could care less. I could care less what the price is. And the reason is, for me, let me bring on someone to the show who would love to be here, Safadine Almos, the writer of the Bitcoin Standard. So if we apply his brilliant book to Bitcoin Cash, I'm being a little bit sarcastic here, but one of his points is that the hardest currency is going to be the one that wins. Sort of irrelevant what the price is, right? It doesn't matter that the price of Bitcoin or what ApeCoin is, whatever it is, over time, ultimately the one that has the most sound properties is going to be the currency that wins. So for me, there's really only two currencies that do that I'm aware of. One is Monero and one is Bitcoin Cash, and both of them are very different. Bitcoin Cash has the usability, and Monero has the fungibility. So for me, it's sort of irrelevant what the price is. I could care less if people want fiat dollars. I'm going to hold my gold. You know what I mean? When the gold standard was gone, anyone who went into fiat was and has been generationally crushed. So yeah, whatever. I could care less. You know, so long as it's above zero, I guess that's a good sign. But for me, that's wholly irrelevant. I can't even say the word. I haven't even had any. Actually, I did have a beer. But
yeah, we just onboarded a bar before we got
but the price is sort of unrelated to the soundness of the money, and Bitcoin Cash is very sound. So at some point, I think that anyone who holds it will be rewarded, as again the Bitcoin Standard book would tell you. And sidetrack, by the way, if you ever read that book, you realize he's talking about Bitcoin Cash the whole time. He just hasn't realized that.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest bamboozles of all time, the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash switcheroo. And a lot of it comes down to as well that same thing about there is no marketing department. So when it got off track, I mean, obviously as a community, we're out trying to sort of fix and update that, but it's pretty hard once you lose control of the message and you don't have a corporate megaphone that everyone can say, oh, look, these guys are the authoritative source of what is Bitcoin. That doesn't exist. And imagine if like Apple had a whole like anti-Apple who had a, you know, the same logo but like in blue or something, and they were trying to spread out the opposite. Don't buy the iPhone. Like that would be crazy. That would be absolutely nuts. But anyway, that's the situation we're in. Okay, on to the transactions. Been a bit spiky recently, 55 up to 75k transactions. I don't know actually why recently we've been having these little surges. It's not like some app coming online or noise.cash suddenly getting a bunch more popular or something, because it kind of ticks up and down a bit. But yeah, I don't know if either of you have any thoughts. Is this all the adoption you've been doing? What's going on with these transactions?
Well, I do think a lot of it is coming not only, of course, from us. There's also a gentleman out in the Caribbean, Sunny. You have Jason on. I saw the podcast you do with him. They're doing amazing work out there. So you're going to see more and more of that organic build up and create that real base layer value for Bitcoin Cash on that market. And what's amazing that, you know, I have a business here and I sell products to restaurants. I have local competitors. What's interesting, you know, and I'm thinking as just like an entrepreneur, like when I go to onboard businesses, I'm not competing against any other chains. Like no one else is out there.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like, it's such a massive opportunity. And also just in the cash market too, you know, so I think we have a huge opportunity here to really uptick this. And by showing businesses how easy it is to accept. And I can't think of anything else really that is creating that opportunity. And again, now I'm curious too what's going on. I don't know if you have on the slide today, even with Binance shorting, not having Bitcoin Cash again, which I find to be curious. But I would say that's the only thing. I mean, I stay very active, and maybe the DeFi stuff that's going on out there. I know Roger announced obviously with the Bitcoin.com wallet, with Verse. I'm sure a lot of coins are moving around that ecosystem on that DEX. So that's probably a large part of that as well.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just got a text message. So where I'm going to dinner tonight for sushi, they want to sign up for Bitcoin Cash. So that'll be one more transaction on the board.
We're at
Love it.
We've been moving lots of Bitcoin Cash around. I don't know about 50,000 worth, but you never know. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it snowballs on itself, and we haven't really seen that kind of massively kick into gear yet. But it's clearly the groundwork is kind of starting to come together. That's what I'm also saying about this next year, is it could be, pretty big, or maybe even the year after. But I sort of feel like maybe in the next year or so we'll start to see that, because like you're saying, you've been doing this stuff in Florida, it's happening in Australia still, and just back when Bitcoin was one Bitcoin in 2013, 2014-ish, that things start to click, when you get two people in a community that start trading. That kind of network effect operates on a small scale too. So two people, it's just one transaction. But as soon as you have 3 people or 5 people, suddenly the coins start to flow around among them, and then each transaction like leads to another transaction, because then somebody else has the coins and they know someone who they can spend it with, and it starts to kind of operate like that.
Jeremy, I don't know if you've gotten this news yet, but now in St. Kitts, KFC is accepting Bitcoin Cash, along with Burger King just came on today.
Soon.
Soon?
Yeah, I wouldn't announce it until we have it on the map.
Okay. Yeah, wait till there's rumors.
Okay. Heavily rumored, potential breaking news right here, live on the show. And I mean, that's exactly.
Sorry. It might be, actually. I need to read the text a little more closely.
Leaked. There's some real journalism vibes happening right here as well too. The next Julian Assange, mate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you better
Insider
watch out. KFC is going to be onto you.
Well, I think
KFC's on.
KFC's already that one's for sure.
Yeah, we've been working on that for a long time, and it looks like Sonny was finally able to pull the last string. So
that is absolutely amazing, and and then it can spread from there. You just get that one branch, proof of concept. Corporate comes in and takes a look at it. What's going on here, guys? I've been trying. I got to say, I've been trying to get this local Subway that I go to like a lot, and the staff all know me and stuff because I'm in there, and sometimes I wear like BCH shirt or something like that. And I've just been slowly like warming them up to the idea. I've talked to the owner when he came in. I said to him, "Can I pay in BCH?" And he was kind of, "Oh no, it's out of my hands." Blah blah blah. But you just got to keep getting in front of them over and over again. And one day, just the switch comes when something changes on their end, and you're just there, and eventually they're right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Next slide then. We've got the other traffic that I keep an eye on is the sent in USD for BTC and BCH, and sometimes not much is happening, but this is absolutely nuts. The BTC is just going on this huge tear up to the second highest it has ever been, from less than like 20 billion suddenly over a week or so, just rocketed up to nearly 200 billion. And the reason I think this is especially relevant is there has not been a big movement in the price. Usually this happens with the price is rocketing up, everyone's getting excited, and the speculation is going crazy, or the price is crashing and everybody's trying to sell out. That hasn't been happening, but this action is going on here. So I don't know if either of you have any theories about this, but also quickly on those Binance, we don't have a slide about that, but there was news today or yesterday, whenever it was, that Binance have once again disabled BCH withdrawals, which they seem to do. We've talked about it on the show a couple of times. Literally only BCH and apparently Monero are the 2 coins that who knows what's going on there, but they run out of coins. And it's like, usually if they're running out of coins, the price should be going up, but these are 2 coins that just suspiciously are just trending along, but then they're out of coins. And then so I guess there's theories, people say that, okay, maybe they're naked shorting, right? They're pretending they have BCH and selling them and hoping that the price goes drops down and they'll be able to rebuy them back in. But once they're literally out of coins, the people who have those coins, listed as, oh, I have 5 BCH credited, when they try and withdraw it, they literally do not have the coins, then they're going to immediately get called out as a scam unless they buy those coins somewhere else. So they keep having this cycle of having to just disable withdrawals, and not deposits, by the way. So please, people, don't go just shoving your coins in there, because you're just funding somebody else who's getting their money out, right? But yeah, that's all I've heard on that front. But I don't have the insider track on what's going on there. But it's basically a good sign for BCH if the withdrawals are being disabled, since it means the buying pressure is strong, and it means eventually we might end up with a short squeeze where if this happens across a couple different exchanges at the same time, then the price just booms as all those exchanges rapidly try and get themselves back into the green.
So Jeremy, I'll actually share. I won't say who, but I had a friend that I started my YouTube channel around, and we kind of went in 2 separate ways. He has a very large channel, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and he got very large off of the AMC short, Dogecoin, this, that. So I messaged him today an article about it, and piquing his interest on a possible short squeeze. So trying to work my way into getting him a video of making his hundreds of thousands of subscribers, letting him know, let's move the Reddit thread on a BCH right now. There seems to be a shortage on coins. So I brought it to his attention, and we'll see how interesting he finds that. And I do think it's worth the story, and someone needs to uncover this. This keeps on happening. So there's something fundamentally not right there. They cannot deliver on their coins.
That's right.
And in regards to the BTC sent on the network, there has been a steady downward trend. So it could be coming from both sides. It could be people dumping, then people also, believe it's a sale. I don't know. I definitely see a strong downtrend. I don't know if this means a bottom will occur or if bottom's going to fall out here. You never know in crypto world.
Well, I got to call you out. You said in April, if it was hit 1st of April and it wasn't, booming up to all-time highs, then there was some, merit to the bearish side of things. So are we getting a revision, or are you like Colin Talks Crypto? He's moved his goalposts to, well, he already did that once, but he's done it again it'll be the end of this year, maybe, that it might happen. I don't know how long he's going to say we're still in the same bull cycle until literally the entire 4 years will have expired and we'll be in a new halving cycle. Like, that's at the rate he's going, like we're already getting up to nearly like 2 years into it.
A broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Exactly. Eventually, if you keep predicting the bull market, eventually it's going to come around, surely.
Yeah. So kudos to you. Great call on that. And I think that we should look more into your thesis of the Bitcoin network getting congested and then spiraling into bear markets. And that could be something fundamentally wrong with crypto right now. The largest asset being crippled is not allowing the ecosystem to continue on. I mean, that's a good thesis to have. I currently think about if I was going to revise my thesis and say I was dead wrong, and where did all that money go? Why did crypto not go as near as parabolic that it did in the last cycle? The only thing I can think about is if a lot of that speculative money went into NFTs and not into market caps of coins, and maybe we just didn't see it. So the speculators were not into crypto per se; they were into other aspects of DeFi chain. So that is something I'm thinking. Maybe I miscalculated in my my general thesis. But regardless, if we get a long bear market, I mean, I'm a young man. I can buy more coins.
Oh, I like that take. The NFTs is an interesting one, because there's definitely stats about people tracking this, and it's been, the fastest growing Ponzi scheme of all time. Whatever, like they've been absolutely booming. But I think you can pretty clearly follow along and see that NFT buy in. People are worried about their crypto getting wrecked in a bear market. Well, NFT is just that on steroids. Like 2 weeks later, nobody cares what your NFT drop was, unless it is maybe literally, crypto punks or the biggest ones. But yeah, I mean, I still was not also, I'm not going to give myself all the credit that I was totally right, because I still feel like we need to see a big drawdown or a big change in the market in terms of BTC taking a big, I still think 40K is probably pretty overvalued for the actual value that Bitcoin BTC is providing to the world. But I think as the world is figuring out okay, this is not getting adopted as a real currency. But then ETH and the other things, I also don't really believe that ETH is going to flip and BTC that soon either. They're all loving it and excited about that. But the fact is their chain is also just kind of unusual, like unusable and bleeding out to competitors. So the market's just kind of holding its breath at the moment, waiting for, something to come surging out of the pack, and nothing really has. I mean, Dogecoin kind of had a bit of a moment with Elon Musk, but again, then their fees started rising, and you just can't sustain viral hype over a currency once it gets to the stage that it's $1 to send it, because suddenly people aren't willing to do that. They'd rather use their bank card, so what do you know? That's where we're at. Okay, speaking of Elon Musk, next slide is Elon buys Twitter. So we had this on the last show, and I've brought it in again here. It's not literally directly related to crypto, but I've found a way to tie it in, and I think it's important to the premise of the show anyway to talk about. So Twitter was kind of hoping that somebody else would rescue them in quotation marks by coming in to give a better offer than Elon, but nobody did. And so the board of directors, after rejecting Elon's offer, realized that they were all going to be on the hook for massive financial penalties for screwing with the interests of the shareholders, and eventually kind of folded to him and allowed him to buy them out at $54.20 a share. Obviously, it all hasn't been sort of finalized and stuff, but supposedly that's what's going to happen. The Twitter staff themselves went into a bit of a wreck and were having emergency meetings and stuff to reassure each other that they were going to have jobs or whatever. Dogecoin rose 20%, and just the world is now, considering what does all this mean? Is this a victory for free speech? Is Elon going to be the savior that comes in and cleans up Twitter and puts global discourse back on a better path after so much banning and censorship? Or is he just going to be, is it just swapping, the devil for the devil you don't kind of thing? Like, is it just another centralized billionaire, coming in to have his turn in charge? Like, what are your thoughts on this, Mark?
Burn it to the ground. Twitter has no value to humanity at all, in my opinion.
Right.
Now, bring in this guy, maybe he puts in some free speech. Maybe people can say what they want, and maybe it becomes a tool that's useful for something beyond manure. So
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. I don't care if he burns it down. I think it's not worth saving anyway. So if he fixes it, then hey, I think that's actually pretty outstanding. So we'll see what happens, and if he fails, I don't care.
Okay, all right. Can't get worse than it already is. Fair enough. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see one of these major online tech companies maybe move non-correlated with the rest, right? Like when we see someone banned on one network, all of the dominoes fall and they all get rid of them. It's like, who owns these different companies? Can we have competition in thought in the way things are laid out, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, and all this? So really excited to see something non-correlated, and especially if he moves it private. I don't know if that's better or not, but I am actually a Twitter shareholder, so I didn't mind that. I think my shares will get acquired, but it'll be really interesting to see how it works. And I'm very surprised that the public's, well, I shouldn't really say that, but a lot of the public is so worried about free speech being out there. And I really thought I grew up in America where everyone's like, well, at least you're in a free country, but I don't think people even think that's true anymore or want that. It's very strange that how scared people are at the idea of the proposition of free speech taking place, like people leaving their Twitters already because it may be a place for free speech. I find that fascinating.
It's horrifying actually. That well, you look at the New York Times, they have so many articles, one after the other, about what the world is going to come to if people can say what they want. They forget the fact that you can already not say things that are illegal. It's not like free speech means you can go and get death threats on Twitter if they make it free speech. It just means if I don't want to call someone she, if they're a he, I don't go to cyber jail.
Right. I think something optimistic he does if he makes the Twitter code open source, that I think every tech platform should do it. I heard an interesting analogy. I can't remember who said it, but they were saying that, if the blockchain continues to progress, that maybe Elon's purchase of Twitter could be a bad one, that the fact that people aren't holding like sovereign controls to their own accounts, they don't have the keys to their accounts, that possibly like he's buying Blockbuster instead of Netflix, so he could be, but maybe he changed and evolves more to that and sees the benefits of decentralized ecosystems, which is likely the future, if sovereignty and things are important to people. And it will be interesting to see how crypto gets integrated. Obviously, I think there's a large expectation for Dogecoin, and what else, and what it means for BTC maximalism, which Jack was in that camp. And it'd be interesting to see if Colin Talks Crypto made a prediction. He thought Elon would make Jack the CEO again. I don't know if that's likely, but it'll be really interesting to see what leaders run the company. And I think it's overall better that he bought the company so far, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think probably on balance, I can't see it being a negative. I'm definitely sympathetic to sort of criticism that, oh, we've just swapped one billionaire for another. But I think anybody who's saying like, oh, Elon Musk, it's terrible, he spent 44 billion to fix this, he should have fixed the ozone layer, and it's like, what are you talking about, mate? The government isn't doing it, they've got way more resources. Or what about the previous group of billionaires? You never gave a shit about them, you just don't like Elon, and suddenly the tables are flipped on you. It was all, oh, if you don't like Twitter, it's a private company, and start your own Twitter. And then you just flip it around, and suddenly it's like, no, we need to protect platforms. The billionaires shouldn't be dictating things, and all of that. So yeah, I mean, we'll see whether or not it actually works out all that much for the.
It'll be interesting to see. I believe he borrowed against his Tesla stock to buy the company. So technically, if Tesla were to drop a lot, he could see some kind of margin call and have to surrender $50 billion worth of stock. And that'd be interesting to see if it had implications, or what kind of implications that would mean for the stock. So he needs to keep the value rising and find a way to unleverage that position over time.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And it's kind of a strange, well, it's an unusual scenario, all things are considered, but it's not that unusual for Elon, in terms of he is famous for, even he just like will go all in just with 100% self-conviction on what he's doing, which to anybody else, even people who are as rich as him, like Zuckerberg's not out there gambling with amounts of money that for Zuckerberg would be a gamble. Elon is still prepared to risk it. If he had $100, he'd be in for $100, and if he's got 100 billion, well, he's in for 100 billion. So it's pretty incredible, and it means he can make these kind of moves that other people can't, just as a solo decision maker, which is pretty crazy to see. But the angle that I was going to tie this into specifically for BCH is on the next slide. I found somebody actually did this analysis where they dug up all the tweets from 2013 to 2021 and did an analysis of which coins were getting shilled the most. So they scanned all who was mentioning which hashtags and which coin codes, exchange tickers. And this is kind of what they found. So they had these, the two biggest ones are obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, but Bitcoin by quite a long way, and then Ethereum sort of following after it. And then the rest of the pack was sort of a bit closer together. So anybody who's interested can have a look on this slide. It's Clapcar91 who made this thread, and he's got graphs for all kinds of stuff, with Bitcoin, without Bitcoin, different years, all combined together, all this sort of stuff. But I've picked out a couple that I wanted to highlight. So my favorite one was this one, mentions all time without BTC and ETH. And so it's kind of a slow progression downwards from Tether, Ripple, Solana, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Chainlink, DAI, Uniswap, USD Coin, Bitcoin Cash, Polkadot, and Tron. So that's it kind of roughly matches up to the coin market cap, which I guess is what you would sort of expect. But it's interesting to see that interest does match quite nicely to the actual amount of interest in the coin. And specifically Bitcoin Cash, it's interesting that it makes it into these, because all time mentioned, so from 2013 to 2021 BCH has been around, like, and it keeps kind of cropping back up into the discussion, right? Like Polkadot or whatever might have like one hype year, but then it's sort of forgotten about, or Chainlink or whatever. But some of these other ones, yeah, Litecoin, Dogecoin, they've also been around a long time. And so they just build up traction. And then if you have a look at 2021 mentions, the list is actually mostly similar, but there's also a few changes, right? So it's Solana, Tether, Dogecoin, USD Coin, Avalanche, 1inch, Uniswap, Polygon, Chainlink, Sushi, Polkadot, Terra, and Cardano. So BCH is being just completely wiped out of the discussion in the more recent kind of year, replaced by Avalanche and 1inch and these ones that were more hype in the latest bull run. And also the order shifts around, Solana and Dogecoin kind of creeping up a little bit, and some of the other ones like getting knocked down more towards the bottom. But there's been a bit of a theory, that BCH has been a bit censored on Twitter. I don't have complete confirmatory evidence of that, but it is definitely the case that we don't have our own topic, which is very unusual. Litecoin has its own topic, whatever, but Bitcoin Cash, it literally, everybody's petitioned for it, but we don't have our own topic. So instead, Bitcoin Cash tweets get shown up under the Bitcoin cryptocurrency topic, and it's kind of very hard to believe that that's accidental or nobody has noticed. So we've been slowly infiltrating the algorithm that way. So again, it could be that Elon will join, and maybe if he releases a list of, oh guys, here was all the shadow banned topics, maybe BCH is on that list, or maybe we never find out, or maybe things were no different and it's all a conspiracy in our own heads. I don't really know, but I'm interested to get anybody else's take on these kind of stats and data as to how interest in the coins matches up to the prices in the market.
First, I would never underestimate the willingness of people to censor Bitcoin Cash. Of course, if you just watch Who Killed Bitcoin, you'll learn the history of that happening. This is super optimistic. If Elon does make the source open code and we can all see, what the code is, but I do think, in all fairness, with the price underperformance of the last cycle, that is a logical assumption too. But a lot of it could be a self-fulfilling process of all kinds of censorship against it. And when you have a Bitcoin maximalist running the corporation and Jack, you wouldn't be surprised to see that either. So, so these are things that we're overcoming, and we're being the media, and we're out here marketing it and using it and letting people who like Bitcoin Cash, people that actually use cryptocurrencies. And the more people you can put it in the hands of, the more fans you'll have of Bitcoin Cash, because they actually learn, how to use cryptocurrency and which ones are actually useful.
No opinion. Next question.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it's just good to highlight that. Yeah, the BCH strategy has got to be decent of necessity, basically, which is that it seems it's a pattern over and over again that the BCH is getting sort of censored out of the discussion on these online platforms. So you just have to have a more resilient network, which is more decentralized, and that is literally peer-to-peer people talking directly to people as a kind of organic movement. And it's the same as before. It's slow to get going, but once it hits a critical tipping point, it just becomes like ephemerally unstoppable, because it's kind of everywhere at once. All right, next slide then. Next topic is the SmartBCH has been going nuts with the upgrades. So they have just been pumping it out. On April 20th, we had an upgrade called the X-Hedge upgrade, so that now on the SmartBCH chain, it's 50% of the validators come from the miners from proof of work, and 50% come from proof of stake. So anybody can put their BCH, lock it up in this contract, and be part of the governance of SmartBCH in some way, which is a pretty cool sort of innovation we got going there. Then you've got, they made some fee adjustment improvements, they made some speed optimizations, and this whole thing went so smoothly that nobody even noticed or blinked. And I thought it was worth giving a mention and a shout out to this, especially in light of what we're going to talk about with the sort of drama on Bitcoin BTC, but just the the devs are just crushing it. They're just quietly just knocking it out of the park over and over and over again. When does BCH have drama about the devs fucked this up and now the chain's broken, or like the fees are spiking, or like we're losing in innovation or something? It's not happening. The SmartBCH guys just pumping it out. And not only did they drop this upgrade, they immediately announced that they would be doing another upgrade called externally owned accounts, which makes it easier on the EVM chain, so you don't have to approve every token like 5 times, when you want to swap them around on the DEX, which would be less annoying, definitely. So I think that's a win. And then we also have the upgrade coming in May, so it's a little under a month, for bigger integers and native introspection, which has been part of BCH's 1-year release cycle. So it's all been planned out. Everybody's on board. All the node teams have got it organized, and I'm expecting it to go exactly as smoothly as all this other stuff, that it will all just work. So for people who aren't following it closely, just the BCH tech is just constantly grinding away and getting better, and it all goes so smoothly that barely anybody even notices. In fact, the market doesn't get hype, or the price doesn't pump, because there's no media around this, because it just works, like Mark was saying. So I'm actually interested to hear each of your thoughts on, do you pay a lot of attention to the technical details, or do you just kind of like assume that it's all good and crack on with adoption? How do you see the BCH protocol dev side of things?
Well, I think that one of the problems, not to make this about BTC, but one of the problems with BTC is technology is always improving. And whatever we choose as currency is in competition with everything else. So I think one of the shortcomings of Bitcoin is they've frozen their currency in 2017 levels. But in 2022 and going forward, DeFi and all of these other elements we're finding are important elements of our currency and what we'll choose as currency. So I think one of the really wonderful things about Bitcoin Cash is that we're not just sitting back and saying, okay, we got it done. This is a perfect currency, because the world is changing, things are evolving. And as the landscape changes, we need to make sure that our currency stays competitive. And as time goes on, the distance between them and us is going to be so vast that I can't see some of these older coins that are stuck in 2017 technology is going to be viable in 2030, 2040. So obviously, I've been very happy with SmartBCH and seeing what they're doing. A big focus of my channel in the next year or so will be not just on Bitcoin Cash, but on coins and tokens that are on the SmartBCH network. So I actually have some upcoming videos about that I haven't announced or released, but there's some really exciting projects, and that'll be a big focus of mine. So I'm very excited to continue following SmartBCH, although the technical side of it obviously is not something I have the chops for necessarily, but I can understand when something just works. And for me, a lot of things in Bitcoin Cash they just kind of work.
To add to that, BCH development has always been something. Well, I think it even goes back to me and Mark were talking about. No one talks about it. It doesn't get huge publicity in terms of the development side of things. Of when a Bitcoin Cash developer found an inflation bug in Bitcoin and didn't go out there and print himself 1 million Bitcoins. He just reported it. And I mean, what an honest thing to do, and I like to think I would have done the same thing and others, but I mean, if you had an imagine inflation button to press rather than going out there and doing something noble. And I think BCH developers are hugely underrated. And I think this will do a lot for price appreciation as more money gets locked up, more BCH, and that'll help with a lot of the cash adoption too, because the more something goes up in value, the more people are going to want to use it and hold it. So I do keep an eye on it. I do have some money on MIS. I have used the network. I've enjoyed it. I know Bitcoin.com is integrating with Burst. I talked about at the beginning. So these are all really bullish things, and you never hear bugs or anything of it. And so and correct me if I'm wrong, in May, the upgrade, we're getting Shawgate, we're getting the decentralized bridge.
Well, we're not going to get the actual bridge. The May upgrade is necessary for the bridge, but then supposedly it's going to be in August or September that the actual bridge will be ready to go, and that's what part of what they, well, we already knew that from previously from Kui Wang, but he sort of in these blog posts they reiterated, like, so we're going to drop these upgrades and then the next thing will be the bridge, and that should be like, you know, September, August type of timeline.
Because I think that's huge right now. I know a lot of it's running on CoinFlex, which is a great corporation, but obviously in cryptocurrency decentralizing things, I think will bring a lot more trust and capital to the market. And and very bullish on it. I think it'll probably have the largest implication of price movement for Bitcoin Cash going into the future is what the developers are doing on SmartBCH, which will even add to the reasons to use Bitcoin Cash for sure.
Yeah, I think the BCH devs are just criminally underrated in my view, and I find it actually quite amusing that regularly the sort of one of the FUDs or whatever that the BDC people will put against it is, BCH, they've got no developers, they're so incompetent, like we've got the best ones in the world, they're all working on Bitcoin BDC and all this stuff, like it's just these anon like randoms and all this stuff. And it's like patently not true, because if that was the case, how are we still going? Like, it's been 5 years since the split, guys. If we had terrible devs and everything was mismanaged and shut down, why aren't our fees a nightmare? Why hasn't all progress stalled to we've had fucking 2 more splits and it's still crushing it. It's still kicking out you know, like industry leading stuff in terms of having a proof of work network and an EVM clone, which is supposedly, you know, but I think will probably in reality prove to be way more scalable than Ethereum. Just, and even the fact that we've got the devs, we've got actually quite a few anonymous devs on BCH, or pseudonymous devs, which is a top tier sign. And it's like, probably Monero would have a few, maybe ETH has a couple, but if you're the kind of coin that's attracting devs that want to stand on it, that's exactly what you want, because that means their, you know, obviously their work is what speaks for themselves rather than their sort of public image. So there's that aspect to it, but it also means you're a coin that is going to be resistant against government meddling or interference more, right? Because if the government puts pressure on the devs, oh, can you integrate this, you know, behind the scenes or whatever, well, they're going to have more trouble doing that with anonymous devs who can just give them the finger and say no, or just not be contactable at all. So yeah, BCH, just the devs are just knocking it out of the park, I think. And yeah, the market hasn't really figured this out. But it's like Mark said, over time, money changes, and especially cryptocurrencies change, and that's a big flaw in the BDC idea that they're going to be like digital gold. And one thing they like about gold is that it doesn't change, because gold atoms have been gold atoms for millennia, and they think, oh, okay, well, we should replicate that, and they're always trying to sell it as it's stable, and you know that nobody's going to fuck it up, and you know that's what we're kind of doing, so we'll minimize the changes. But it's just reasoning by analogy in that way leads you to the exact wrong conclusion, which is that's why cryptocurrency is not a precious metal, it's a different category. And in the crypto category, innovation matters a lot. In fact, it's not the number one thing if you have the most innovative coin, but it's always broken, or it's always full of bad ideas, or, you know, there's still got to be some consistency, reliability, Lindy effect, those kind of things. But on the other hand, if your coin is not innovating at all, it is literally only a matter of time until you're dead and buried. There's no way around it. And those things are not easy to spin up quickly either, too. Just because BTC is the biggest, it doesn't mean if tomorrow they all decided we're going to be the most innovative, that would be very hard to get going, because all the devs have already invested into other chains. They've already started their projects there. They already have communities that support the efforts of those devs, the way you fund those devs. All that stuff doesn't just happen overnight, you know, so pretty critical. Okay, so the reason to mention all this as well too is that we're going to talk a little bit here about the BDC upgrade that is kind of going on at the moment. So I don't know whether or not you guys have looked into this, but I'm going to try and give a bit of a summary. I almost didn't want to put this in, to be honest, because I feel like, look, this is a Bitcoin Cash podcast. I'm sick of talking about BDC. Just like we're just blazing ahead of them, and I really don't care. But I had some requests to talk about this specifically, people that wanted to hear a bit of a take on it. And it is actually quite important and quite relevant in the context of all those BCH upgrades. So you might not have had time to follow all the drama, but I'll give you a summary, and for listeners that are, maybe have some BTC and some BCH, they might, be particularly interested in this. But basically, recently, BTC has started up this huge controversy over BIP 119, which is called Check Template Verify. And the idea is to add in what's called covenants, which is basically that you can change the way that coins are spent. So for instance, right now on BTC and BCH, you can lock up your coins in a time lock contract, and you can't spend them until a certain date in the future. Or you can do multi-sig, where 3 or 5 people need to sign off to move coins, right? So those are the simple forms of covenants. And but this new change they want to put in is kind of expanding and extending that. And once you expand to some more complicated use cases, things get a little bit murkier, because you can end up with situations where things might turn into like implementing white lists, for instance, that are implemented by the miners, but you might also have extra sort of power. With extra power comes extra flexibility, that kind of idea. So BCH, interestingly, already has this stuff. The devs already got these upgrades in like 2 or maybe 3 years ago with a thing called Check Data Sig Verify. So, BTC is literally years behind the game on this one. And BCH, despite having fork drama and problems, hey, shout out to Dinoporns in the chat, despite having forks and all this drama, it was still just getting these changes in, and BTC is only getting around to it now. So why this is happening is basically because at least some segment of the BTC community is really starting to feel the heat with the lack of DeFi that they have, essentially to what Mark's point was. So this one guy, Jeremy Rubin, has like taken the lead on this, and he's like, I'm going to crack on and I'm going to get these changes into the chain. So he's now spent a little bit more than 2 years working on this proposal, making the software, proving the use cases for it, testing it, and all this stuff. So it's not been a trivial amount of work, but it's become a big grief in the last couple of weeks, because he's finally started to sort of go big with it and say, guys, we should put this in the chain. Like, I'm dead serious. Here it is. Take a look at it. Let's put it in, all this kind of stuff. Of course, now that he's done that, he's come up to the problem that he should have seen coming, because he didn't learn the lessons of BCH. He clearly didn't watch the Who Killed Bitcoin documentary. And I should forward it to him, actually. Yeah, we're going to have to hit him up later. He obviously didn't watch that. And he's run into Blockstream, and like specifically Adam Back, but really the whole gang who are invested in keeping control of the development. And so they are against this change, and they're, in typical fashion, exactly like they did with the block size war, they're creating as much FUD and noise about it as possible. So the BTC community has just devolved into a shambles as everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out, do we want this upgrade, is one part of the debate. And then it's also mixed up a bit in how are we going to activate this feature, because before the BCH split away, the upgrade process on BTC was basically hard forks done by the core team, because Satoshi just did whatever he wanted. And then Gavin, had a lot of good ideas, so everybody was happy to go along with it. But then the narrative with SegWit was, we can only have soft forks, and they had to do it with this user activated soft fork to kind of force the issue at the split, right? But then they didn't really have that many upgrades from that point on until they had Taproot, which got in a few months ago. And the way they did that was this thing called Speedy Trial, which was this really weird thing where they asked for minor signaling, which was the opposite of what they did with SegWit. Apparently, you couldn't have minor signaling for big blocks. That was irrelevant, but minor signaling for Taproot was the greatest thing ever. So they had this Speedy Trial. And I mean, I can go into all the details of all that if everyone's interested, but I'm just very aware that, we're definitely getting into the weeds of it. But anyway, essentially they did that. And so now this Jeremy Rubin is trying to do his upgrade, and so he also wants to do speedy trial. But of course, the story now has once again been changed, and speedy trial, no, that's bad. We shouldn't be doing that, and all this, right? So the pattern basically is that Blockstream, Adam Back, Bitcoin Core, Greg Maxwell, like the people in charge there, it's basically whatever suits their agenda at any one time is what is allowed. But of course, they can't let that narrative, get into the public consciousness. So instead, it's just a constant changing of, you don't have consensus, and nobody, it's not agreed, and the developers disagreed. And once you create enough drama and noise around that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you get everybody putting in their 2 cents, and before you know it, it really does seem confused and a mess, right? So, but this guy Jeremy Rubin, seems like he's had enough, and he's just cracking on with it regardless, and I guess good for him. So we're kind of now in a situation, and we'll see it play out over the next couple weeks or couple months as to how far he is prepared to sort of push the issue. But either it can all sort of die down and not go anywhere, in which case Bitcoin is maybe looking at a scenario where it's becoming a bit ossified, and maybe nobody can get changes into the protocol. And if that happens, that might also be just signing their death note in the long term. If he does get it in, then it will be an interesting case of how did he manage to wrestle away control from this Bitcoin core group, or do they find some way to sneak their own agenda into it? Or you could even potentially be a fork on Bitcoin BTC, which would be super interesting, because it would fragment their own network effect, and it would make them much more comparable to BCH in terms of having their own, chains splitting off, or things turning into a disaster. Nobody really knows. So that is my very long-winded but hopefully short summary of huge BTC drama. So yeah, any thoughts on that from anyone before I maybe touch on the BCH sort of angle to this?
Well, if it does go through and they accidentally create another inflation bug, I'm sure some smart BCH developer will save them. So, hey, I'm gonna dip out now, so now you can have your Ryan Giffin back to yourself. Thank you for having me on, and I'll see you guys soon.
And this is actually my goodbye to Mark. I've been working with Mark for 3 weeks now. So Mark's got to go back home. He may be back in a few weeks to continue on the work we've been doing here. But so I get to say bye to Mark.
All right, man. See you around. See you guys.
All right, we'll catch you on another episode soon, man. All right.
Yeah, my thoughts on that are rather, well, I want to come at it from an angle that if forking at this point would be interesting, but you have other options just to move to. So obviously, I think the biggest opportunity for other chains is most of the world that is now into cryptocurrency. It's a huge opportunity, but also changing thoughts and paths, and realize if the ecosystems don't agree, is there a better option there? So it maybe Jeremy Rubin looks at Bitcoin Cash or something like that. And I think going back to like the early days, Peter Risen's paper about how a blockchain with large blocks, the miners still make money, moved a lot of people over actually. So there's influence there and other options to choose. So maybe it creates a hard fork, which would be interesting, and it could put another chain into the bullseye of the maximalists and take some pressure off of the what people. I'm sure if you've been under attack by the BTC bots out there or what have you. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. And I do think people want to innovate more. That's not the concept of Bitcoin. They think being good money is being predictable and the same, and that's their philosophy. So yeah, those are my thoughts towards it. And so I wonder if he would look to fork or to just move his efforts into another chain.
Well, yeah.
So I'm kind of curious why they might be interested in forking if, like, we already have what they're trying to do with this.
Right.
Well, I don't think they're interested in forking. Well, that's part of the drama, is that essentially none of them want to fork. It's kind of nobody. I'm not going to say nobody ever wants to fork, right? But to a certain extent, and probably even less than in the BCH community, even at the time where it was all the split. This Jeremy Rubin is very keen on BTC, and he doesn't want to create a a fork. He doesn't want to create a split. And obviously the people who don't want this change in, they also don't want a split. But the thing is, he's kind of willing to push the boundaries a little bit, because he's made a separate client, I believe, and he's been banding around this kind of I'm just going to release my client, and if enough people run it, well, then everyone will switch. But that's not necessarily the case, because the drums of war are already beating on the opposite side for a so-called USRF. So the original fork with SegWit got in because they had what was called UASF, user activated soft fork, where a bunch of people on the BTC Maxi crowd basically switched their nodes to not accept or to only propagate SegWit blocks, and therefore kind of force the issue. And seeing that in advance was one of the precipitating factors why the BCH devs created a split to preserve BCH before this all turned into a disaster, right? And so now it's very interesting because they've learned, just like BCH learned its lessons from the fork as to, what went wrong and what we need to do differently. So did they. And apparently one of the things they learned was that this kind of methodology is effective. And so they're now trying to do the same thing here potentially, but it would be in reverse, which would be that instead of everybody trying to force an upgrade, or everybody, the node operators trying to force an upgrade, it would be the opposite, where they were trying to basically denial of service the upgrade and only propagates the blocks that didn't have the upgrade. And if they do that, then they're at risk of going from a low risk soft fork, and the whole narrative of BTC is a soft fork is low risk, therefore it's the better thing, which is not really true at all, but that's what they say. But they're at risk of turning that into a hard fork inadvertently, or splitting the chain if they are monkeying around with these kind of hardball node deployment tactics and so on. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think soft forks are more coercive,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to come along with the change, at least the hard fork gives you a choice. I think like I said, and I think you quoted in one episode, obviously, again, like the biggest opportunity for Bitcoin Cash is the new people, but I think the more and more people understand the compromised nature of Bitcoin and don't agree with it, I think Bitcoin Cash will be there with open arms, and I think that's comes with the branding and the conversations that'll happen. So yeah. Oh, look at that guy.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a sec, but
sorry about that. I'm just I gotta close out my Telegram. It's coming through on OBS.
Okay.
Coming in hot with the Telegram chats. Yeah, but on this fork stuff though, I mean, obviously that was a pretty quick summary. To be honest, we could do basically a whole episode on this stuff. And if it degenerates further into an actual fork happening or something like that, I mean, we might be able to do a detailed digging into that. And I really was conscious that I'm just narrating this huge stream, but it's trying to compress a lot into a quick 5 minutes. So anyway, we might end up coming back to it and digging into all the other deeper aspects of it. But the reason as well that I wanted to highlight, and my so that was all mostly the facts kind of as they are, for any listeners being caught up to speed. But my own opinion on this, having looked into it a little bit, is that obviously, basically every outcome is good for BCH, right? Because maybe Jeremy Rubin gets a bit cheesed off and his mind opens a bit more. I know that he's not particularly interested in BCH at the moment. That has been kind of suggested to him, or it has come up in conversation, but so far he's not that interested in that. But maybe if he has enough grief, he'll eventually realize, wait, maybe these guys were onto something with the whole we can't get any upgrades going on BTC. If he does fail and he does just flame out, then the BTC inability to upgrade will probably be seen negatively, that the market will really come to believe that Bitcoin BTC have set their path, that okay, we're trending pretty rapidly into ossification, and that we're not having any kind of planning for upgrades or willingness to innovate or whatever, which they would see as a good thing, which is that the more, stable and unchanging they are, the more attractive they are as digital gold. But I would say it's the opposite, which is that the crypto market tends to reward currencies that are, kicking things up to the next level. So that could also be a benefit to BCH. And if they do get into a fork or anything like that, that's huge benefit to BCH, because not only will it make BTC seem less cohesive, but it will also add a new group of people who are busy at war with the Bitcoin BTC people, creating disruption, but are trying to also spread the narrative. There's not just one Bitcoin, and there's different options, and it's disputed as to who is the real Bitcoin. They will be starting that as well as us, and that'll be even better, because then whatever that will be opening more people's minds to the idea that okay, maybe there can be different versions of Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. So as to the actual, I mean, they're just between a rock and a hard place. I don't know that they're just a mess. BCH does not have this problem, but it only doesn't have this problem because it's fought long and hard, and had over the last 4 years, it had 3 forks in total. And the community has had to slowly grind out and learn a process for upgrading, for accepting changes, for developers proposing things, for the community coming to agreement. And now that process seems to be working and stable. But the BTC crowd, who didn't take that time, or it was all let's listen to Bitcoin Core, they're now having to learn those lessons themselves or risk splintering. And so the shoe is kind of on the other foot, in terms of BCH was prepared to take all that pain and problems initially, and is now going to benefit going forward. Whereas BTC, it's time for them to pay the piper on some of these costs, unless they just turn into we're ossified forever, in which case that's another kind of cost that they're going to have to pay. So it remains to be seen exactly what ends up happening here, but certainly the through line is that Blockstream seem to have a stranglehold on what's going on, and Jeremy Rubin, he's not having much luck, at least so far, but maybe he's got some tricks up his sleeve, who knows. All right, that's enough about Bitcoin BTC then.
I want to make an official.
Can
I make an official announcement? It is official. It is official. Burger King is accepting Bitcoin Cash in St. Kitts.
All right,
large publicly traded company is accepting. That is official now.
And that's in where? That's in St. Kitts?
Yes, along with KFC. So large corporations around the world are adopting Bitcoin Cash.
Damn, you love to hear it. Wow, that's really something, especially if it can be successful little endeavor and really turn some heads. Would be excellent if we got some positive press out of that.
You heard it here first on the Bitcoin Cash podcast.
Exclusive news, completely unplanned. Breaking stories right at the forefront as it's happening. Peer-to-peer adoption, global reserve currency, spend it at Burger King. So I mean, it was kind of a bit unfortunate we couldn't have had Mark stick around for this, but maybe I'll get him on another time to talk about his involvement in all the adoption efforts and everything. But tell us about this adoption. So you've been obviously spreading adoption in Florida. You've been learning from what's been happening in St. Kitts. None of this was at all on the menu at all last time when we talked in last year, or even at Christmas. It's all been rapidly ramping up, it seems like. And now you've got a flipstarter as well to sort of further accelerate this. So just walk me through the steps. What's going on here?
So, I went to St. Kitts. I went out there. I was invited by the crew over there. It was working, and for sure wasn't going to pass up the opportunity. So did what I had to do to get in the country, and I haven't left the country in a while. So obviously COVID and all that. Super excited, and just to meet more BCH people that we're building. So I went over there, and I was watching, and I first thought when I went to St. Kitts, like it's this Freedom Island, like maybe this is a place I would want to end up. And when I went, my experience wasn't so much that, is I saw what they were doing there, and I was like, wow, this gentleman Sonny operates a B2B business and touches a lot of businesses. And he's creating an ecosystem. And I kind of knew that from away, but I didn't understand like all the tools, and I didn't really understand how to onboard. So I learned a lot over there, that literally if you give everyone every tool to do it. So we bought a bunch of tablets. We've created all kinds of educational stuff, how to get the wallet, how to document your seed phrase properly right on here. We make the businesses do it right in front of us to make sure they understand the importance of that. And so I realized I touch over 500 businesses every single month. That's my current client book. So I went around and learned how to overcome every objection as to why you would want to accept cryptocurrency for your business. Literally, if you gave me an objection right now, I could absolutely overcome it. And we want to,
let's try it. Tax. Tell me about tax.
So tax is probably the biggest hurdle, but it's not really. I do it for my business, and it's a little bit of reconciling if you sell some. So if you get it, you have it at a price, and if you move it, you have to report that price. So what's happening, and our ultimate goal is to get to DeSantis and overturn it. But what we learned when we went down to the Bitcoin conference and had dinner down there is that Florida wants to become the crypto capital of the world, but you can't spend your crypto anywhere. So actually, we've been in contact with the mayor's office of Miami, and there's actually a crypto task force, and they want to hand out grants. They want people to use it. So we're looking into different ways to get that access, that capital, and all of that. And we've got to create like a nonprofit. We're talking about a lot of different ideas on how to do that. And they don't really care necessarily what crypto it is, but they want to become a crypto hub. And unfortunately, there's nowhere to spend BTC, which we had the BTC conference down here. So tax is an issue, but it's light reconciling. And most places are not really wanting to convert it. But as you saw in one of my promotional things here, I show people within the wallet how you can not have to deal with it. So you can literally get Bitcoin Cash and put it to a stable coin if you don't want to deal with it. But what you're not doing is you're not marketing your business to all of the crypto people that are on this podcast want to go out there and spend their crypto. So we tell them the benefits about map.bitcoin.com and putting yourself on there and using social media. And then what I'm planning to do with my Flipstarter is literally buy billboards in town, run radio ads, do stunts, make this viral, and bring more attention to their business, because their current clientele is not going to change their purchasing behavior. But what they can do, they can find new clientele that will come to their business that wouldn't have otherwise have been there because they're crypto friendly. And now there's $2 trillion that exist in this ecosystem that want to learn more about this, and they're not touching that part of the world. So every restaurant I walk into has an empty seat in it, and that could be filled by someone who wants to spend crypto. The guy that's been coming to your restaurant for the last 20 years using his credit card, he's probably not going to change. And by the time he changes, the price of these coins you have collected are going to be worth a lot more in value. When you start creating 10,000 worth of purchases in a night in crypto, best believe the Bitcoin Cash coins you have right now will be worth a lot more. So if you can be a little bit more forward thinking right now and accumulate and understand, you keep on hearing about crypto, that it is happening, that, why wouldn't you want to at least start accepting it? And even at the very least, if you want to convert it into a stable coin, why are you not allowing those people to come in your business? That's kind of the sales pitch there.
Right.
But the biggest thing, go ahead.
So Dino Pawns has got a question in the chat. How can businesses accept Bitcoin Cash but have it converted to USDC if they don't want to hold BCH? Do they have to trade it on Coinbase, or can they just build it into their acceptance register? How does that work?
So you can just go into your bitcoin.com wallet and scroll to the bottom where it says swap, and it'll show BCH and it'll show swap to BTC. You just click on that and you swipe down to USDC or Tether. And the biggest innovations coming soon with CoinFlex in the States, and you guys have access to this in your countries. You have Flex USD, which yields them 15% on their cash. It's literally the greatest bank account in the world, that in people are blown away. Like, that's coming. I can get 15% of my cash. I'm getting 1/4% of my cash. So like it becomes a no-brainer to get involved with the ecosystem, especially when we get that United States. Now, unfortunately, the United States is in the company of North Korea, Cuba, and Iran that you cannot have Flex USD because the SEC has so much regulation in the United States. But it is coming. In my conversation at dinner with CoinFlex, and also Mark Lamb's tweeted it before. So waiting for that to happen. That'll be a huge game changer for the Bitcoin.com wallet, BCH, and when people can just accept the coin and put a good portion of that into Flex USD and get 15% plus on their cash.
So what about the fees on that? That's another question we've had. Like, I know that Bitcoin.com like swapper doesn't necessarily have the lowest fees, although I can see that if that Flex USD gets in there, then they can just link that up on SmartBCH and bang, then now you're having low, like mega low fees, and you're able to do, so maybe that will fix that problem. But what's the is the fees of swapping back and forth to the stable coins a part of the issue?
That is a great question. And I do explain to them that they can go to any exchange, and it's just like if you were to take euros and exchange it for yen, that there's an exchange fee for doing things. But that hasn't become an objection at this point. I haven't gotten that objection yet, and people are okay with understanding if I move it, there is a small fee for that. But likewise, these businesses are used to taking Amex and MasterCard, a percentage there. So if they wanted to move out of it. But again, if they can just attract new clientele, and I'm already doing what I can on a local level to market the businesses. But a lot of what my Flipstarter about is running a better campaign for these people that are being forward thinking to put spotlight on them in whatever capacity I can. And that's where I knew, like with my efforts, and I'm already invested into it. We have over 15 businesses in the first week, but we have a lot of other cool marketing materials that I can show you. I'll actually end up sending to you, and we'll put on the Bitcoin Cash podcast, maybe, if you want to.
Yeah.
I know you talked about creating a section for that, but also use .cash. So everyone in the community can have access to the onboarding tools that we've been working on. So we spent the first week just creating effective tools, kind of a starter kit, and going from there.
Yeah. So with all these businesses and the sent kits part of it, I'm really curious what your experience was there. The thing I wonder about with the merchant adoption, and it sounds like, maybe this has got to a point where it's sort of developed enough to have answers to these questions, is okay, you do all the hard work, you pitch someone on it, you get them interested, okay, they're the business owner or whatever. How do you make that sticky? Because obviously there's a self-reinforcing point where if you have enough local BCH people in the community, then they will actually provide those sales, the coins will circulate, and the staff will stay trained up on it because it will be happening regularly.
Yes.
The business will see a benefit, and all that will flow. But if somebody is trying to replicate this just on their own, in their own little city, wherever they are, if they just convert a merchant, then given a couple of weeks or a couple of months, eventually the merchant loses interest. So after all this work has been invested in onboarding the merchants and stuff, which is kind of worthwhile anyway, because at the very least you're teaching those people about it and showing them the potential and everything. Does it stick? And if so, how is that solidified?
So part of that is obviously the marketing too, and letting people know and throwing events around it. And as the number is small, it's relatively easy. I just go and eat at those restaurants. So I go there and spend, and I can manage a certain amount of a client book of people I've adopted. But as the number grows, I'll learn with those pain points. And in St. Kitts, I can't speak specifically on it because I'm not that close to it, but I know there's a lot of people spending it, and it's already moved around quite a bit, where a lot of people have it and want to spend it. So I think on a smaller island of only 50,000 people, it's easier to do that rather than South Florida with millions of people. So, but I do think if you can make enough noise with it and throw events, you can start to get clusters of people. And I'll have to, express more as I learn more. But I know on a smaller number, I can manage it. But I actually do have a goal. Again, if we can get something going with the Crypto Task Force in Miami and get a nonprofit and get some funding and grants and things like that, I want to make at my office here like a Bitcoin Cash kind of help center, and actually like employ someone full time to check up on the businesses, run events around it. And that's a longer term goal. This is my first push at getting some inertia and see if I have success with it and see if the community finds my efforts worthwhile. And really, I'm going to get 100 businesses on my own here. And it'll lead to those other steps, to follow and build on this. And then, as you guys know, I host a charity golf tournament around Bitcoin Cash in the fall. So I'll get all those merchants together. We'll speak about our experiences. We'll share. We'll have community leaders talk about it and share and kind of get all those brains together. I think Bitcoin Cash has to do that more. Getting all the brains in one room. And as I create these merchants and try to create a passion towards it, some of them will become super spreaders, some of them won't. It's just like in any sales job. But the more people that touch it and understand it, a lot of them fall. So some people you'll see in videos are just like their jaws drop when they first use it. They're like, oh my gosh, and understand the properties of it and get what the fiat system is. And I'll ask a lot of them, why should I use this currency? I'll go, well, why do you use dollars? And they go, because that's what you're told to do. Well, what if you had an option of money with different properties and different ideas? And, what if you knew you had an option? So it starts a lot of thought-provoking conversations. So kind of add to that. This is my first step, and along with other things that Florida wants to do specifically. And DeSantis does seem to be pro-crypto. I've heard there's been talks about paying your taxes in cryptocurrency. So this is a good opportunity in South Florida.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. This is some kind of on the ground learning and stuff that you're going through is just massive, and it sounds like it's working. I'm going to be fascinated to see the updates as time goes on of how, because it's kind of a bigger scale, like you say. Florida is pretty big compared to St. Kitts, compared to a lot of places in the world. Like,
yes,
I'm pretty sure there'd be more people in Florida than in the whole of Australia, right? So
But I will say this. So I've built now probably 4 companies.
Yeah.
And I really feel, and actually I'll share our office. I don't want to give too much credit, but there's actually already been some Bitcoin push against some of our efforts. And I don't want to say exactly what it is, but I think that's a good sign that they're already, people are feeling threatened by the push. And I have an ecosystem down here, and I built things before, and I built it throughout the hospitality, and we're in the hospitality mecca of the world. So I'm having early success with it, and I can't say I have the whole playbook yet, but I will build it, and I'll teach everything I learn along the way.
Exactly. If somebody's feeling the heat, that means you're really disrupting the incumbents in that regard for sure. And if you can learn how to do it, and if all these tools and stuff, that's all knowledge that we can definitely find ways to compile that. I've been pretty busy recently, but hopefully we can find some time. We'll get a lot of that stuff, codify. We'll get some resources uploaded on there. I'll help you out where I can with the websites and stuff like that, and we'll get that information out there to the community. Because again, if we can get that same thing sort of starting to happen in all different cities all around the world, it could just go absolutely nuts. And I think one thing I wanted to talk about as well, I'll be interested to get your take, is somebody posted today on Reddit, and I'm pretty sure it was basically just disingenuous trolling, but it's an interesting point to discuss regardless, saying, oh, this merchant onboarding strategy sucks. And I mean, they were sort of trying to talk shit about it, but then they couldn't really say what they would do better or differently. But the premise was, oh, look, we've been working on this onboarding for so many years, and it's just a failed strategy because no other coin does it like this. Why are we wasting our time? Why aren't, some other coin, they're just getting millions of dollars with their hype token launch? Like, why aren't people doing that? Et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, to me, that is all just complete garbage, because the thing about doing merchant onboarding is it's very hard work to make that breakthrough. But the fact that no other coin's doing it is a great sign, not a terrible sign. You literally cannot be a market leader if you're following the herd. You have to be doing something different. And this is something that BCH has had for a long time, and it's stuck with. And obviously it's through a slow process of elimination, it's starting to find success. And the thing about real merchant adoption is that it's very high proof of passion. So people see those stickers, Bitcoin Cash accepted here, and they get curious and they ask about it. They can see cryptocurrency impacting them in their real life. And it's also very it's very hard to copy. If any other coin suddenly wants to onboard 100 merchants, there's no way to fake that, right? You can fake coin market cap, volume, or trading on exchanges or whatever. You just need a couple people and some bots and a bit of money to squish around, and you're off to the races, right? But getting 100 real businesses to accept something, or a little local community going, is no trivial task, especially if you don't have a community backing you up that supports that and has helped with the resources and will go to the locations and spend money and all that sort of stuff. It's just impossible. So to me, it's actually a great strategy, and we should be doubling down on it and figuring out how to do that better, because people always say, oh well, why wouldn't I use this coin or that coin? Those coins are not doing this stuff anymore. As time goes on, they're all trying to find the easy money in VC hype or whatever, so what do you think?
I saw that post on Reddit, and I thought about responding but I also would rather have a conversation rather than going back and forth on Reddit. And also I saw it had no upvotes, so I didn't want to give it that attention. So I'm fine with any criticism. Bring on, if you guys have any criticism, please tell me, and we can have a thoughtful conversation about it. So that person actually sees this podcast, I will happily fly them down here, put them up in a hotel, and spend a few days of onboarding with me, and then tell me if they think the work is not worthwhile, and see the interactions. I will happily foot the bill for all of it. So if that person sees this, and then we can talk about it.
Ryan, I don't believe you.
It was
this Reddit troll is just like getting way outmatched here. Like, oh, I was just trying to fucking troll you guys online, and now I'm getting called out with like, we'll give you a VIP ticket to get wrecked in real time.
Come to South Florida. Come to South Florida. We'll go out to some nice restaurants. We'll spend some money in BCH that are now accepting, and then really and go through the process, and then tell me if you think it's not worthwhile. Because I'm so fired up. Even at the beginning of the podcast, you can hear me like I was already just got done with 2 onboardings today, and I really want to hit through my full strategy here. And but yeah, I'm happy to invite them down to see the hard work we've been doing and learn. I really think, again, we're working on a video right now to kind of show what we've been doing, because I didn't think about onboarding like this when I first got involved, and I didn't know if it was the best strategy until I actually tried it, right? So it's you can't. So I think his name was Miami Heat something. He might be around here, actually. He's probably in South Florida. So I'll come up to Palm Beach, or I have a lot of prominent businesses in Miami. And actually, longer term goal, by next BTC conference, I'll have all the businesses around the conference accepting Bitcoin Cash. And I want to have billboards up there letting people know, so when people fly in to go to the conference, they see Bitcoin Cash everywhere. The longer strategy I have here, but I think that'll be pretty profound. And it's so easy to, like I said, I shouldn't say it's so easy. With the right tools, doing it the right way, you can overcome all these objections, and people want to be a part of it, and the city wants to embrace it. So it's a great opportunity. So if you're in South Florida, I don't think it's not worthwhile. But what else are you, like, if you're not having people use it, like, then why are you in the crypto or the Bitcoin Cash? I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that the person was promoting more resources should go to SmartBCH. I'm not going to say those people don't deserve it. Absolutely. And if you think that's more worthwhile, there's flipstarters out there and people you can contribute to that are building that, and you don't have to partake in what I'm doing by any means. But to say what I'm doing is not worthwhile, come with me, put you up in a hotel, take you out to dinner, we'll onboard some people, and then we'll talk.
Ryan, I have a question.
Yes.
If I can hop in here real quick. Have you ever onboarded a merchant through text message or through email or something like that?
So I always start off with texting someone some BCH. It's one of my first tactics. So just like
with the wallet, the Bitcoin.com wallet, the shareable link, or?
The shareable link is one of the most powerful things in the whole cryptocurrency economy.
So there is a problem with that, and I reported this back to Bitcoin.com, like the wallet team, a year and a half ago. It relies on Google services. So if you have Lineage OS, or I think even Graphene, that shareable link just won't work. And CoinText is no longer a thing. That's what I was using in place of that shareable link. and I'm not sure. I believe the last I spoke with Corbin, he forwarded it along, but he's like, there a few pieces of the wallet rely on these Google services, and to gut those out would be a lot of effort that they don't want to put into things right now. So, you want to be my middleman?
Sure. So Jet, if I could share, I haven't run into that issue, but I want to, I guess I didn't understand the technical problems that you were having with it. Where are you seeing these issues?
So if, so I use Lineage OS, which is just a Android operating system that has, or sorry, I use Lineage without micro G or something like that. So it doesn't have the Google services built into Android. I have to add those in specifically. If I go into the send and select shareable link, it'll let me craft the transaction. Let me just say shareable link, go for something small like a penny because I have like nothing here. And then it's just nothing. And sometimes
it's not populating.
Yeah, sometimes it'll show me an error at the top that's like, we're unable to process this or something, but it just doesn't work. And so, I mean, I could set up this other phone specifically for shareable links, but that's a lot of effort.
So I can say where shareable links work, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think the issue you're having is more of a minority case.
Absolutely.
And I think again, I haven't had those conversations, but how can I be the middleman here?
So I went to place an order. There's a underwear company called Sheath that I absolutely love. If anyone, I'm dead serious. I got I got a couple pairs for my birthday last year, and since then I was like, I might just make the switch completely. I'll throw out all of my old underwear. These things are so great. And if they want to sponsor the show, we'll take it, by the way. But first...
Michael Malice, he's sponsored by them. He's always...
Nice.
But first, they need to accept Bitcoin Cash. I went on their website yesterday to place an order. I was about to bundle up for the next 2 years. And I saw they had coin payments on their website, and they had the logo for BTC, LTC, Ethereum, and BCH. I went to go through coin payments to make the purchase. They only accept BTC, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. So I sent an email and I sent a tweet and I was like, hey guys, I'm 90% through this order right now. What would it take for you to accept Bitcoin Cash? No response. Later, they send me an email with a discount code that I'm sure is automated. And it's like, I'll pay 20% more. Just accept this currency. So I just went on their website. You guys were talking about onboarding, and I was like thinking, how do I contact these guys in a way that's a little more personal? They have a text message, or they have a phone line there that you can either call or text. So I've got their number pulled up in my phone, and I'm in the moment. I was like, you ever done this? Because I haven't. And if you have advice now, I'll send that text.
Yeah, send me the information. I'll take a shot at this, and maybe and this will be a huge fun challenge to see. Where I have an easier advantage where I'm talking to people that I have business relationships with for the last decade,
right?
So they already know and trust me, so for me to suggest this to them and explain it in a thorough way, so I have and that's what Sunny had in St. Kitts, and that's where other people may have in other communities where I think we can have a lot of spread adoption. So this will be a fun challenge. It'll be further away. But
they're based in Colorado.
Okay, where in Colorado?
Give me 2 seconds.
I love going to Colorado.
They are in, if it ever loads here.
Show up at their office. That'd make an impact. That's
if it's in
Breckenridge. When you're serious.
If it's in Breckenridge, I'm there.
They're in Woodland Park, Colorado.
All right, Woodland Park, Colorado. What's the name of the company?
Sheath Underwear.
Sheath Underwear. SHEEF.
SHEATH.
Yeah.
Like
it's sheath.
A sword sheath. Yeah.
Got it. Sheath Underwear. All right. Challenge accepted.
Here, I'll send you their phone number on Telegram too.
Perfect.
All right. This is also documented. So in a month's time, you go on their website and you see they're accepting Bitcoin Cash. You know where it came from.
That's it.
I will put some calls. I've been a sales rep that's how I started my career, with selling. So this has been kind of a natural thing to do. And I think I'm up for it.
Yeah,
Right,
it seems
I'm
like
excited.
it's crushing it, you know. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit more about this Flipstarter as well, too. I want to give you a proper chance to just shill it, because I don't know, you had, I guess, a 2-week period. It's half over.
Yeah.
You know, how's it going? Walk us through all that.
So yeah, I'm roughly right now. I'm not funded, and I'm about 60% of the way there. So we'll see if it happens or not. Either way, I'm super grateful for everyone who contributed. Absolutely. And I will give 100 businesses to the community, regardless of my funding status. I bought all the tablets. I've done all the legwork. But you know, the money really is for extra marketing, and to put spotlight in it, and to fill that other side of the equation. What's the good of, you know, having all these businesses accepting it if you're not loudly telling the community and speaking out to certain people to make people aware? So that's and the long part of it is, I think Florida is a crypto hub, and there's no adoption. It's supposed to be a crypto hub, but there's none, and we're having success with it. And I think it's very important. And I recently started following Flipstarters, but it's really important to invest in people that are going to do things regardless. Like, I've started businesses with people, and if you just put out a business plan and say, fund me, then I'll do the work, like, that's not really going to work. You know, there's a good story of the Wright brothers, where we're competing to create flight. You know, with they're the first to actually conquer flight. But there's actually the government was subsidizing someone else, I can't remember his name, to also create flight at the same time, and he was competing with the Wright brothers. And the day that the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He didn't try to figure out how to still do it or how to improve upon it or be in the industry. So I think it's very important to be that. And, you know, I've just been in the space for a while, and I wanted to figure out where I could really make something hit. And after seeing kits, I was inspired, you know, and I think merchant adoption is important. And I think a lot of people, actually, I can't believe how many people want this, Jeremy. When I tell people about it, they're like, yeah. Like, there's so many people that are starving to actually do it. Like yesterday, the guy we onboarded, and actually on Mark's channel, we did a live onboarding. Actually, he got close to $200 in tips from that video from the community. He was
he'll be loving it. Yeah.
He was like calling all his friends. He wants to do an event there, get all of his friends' businesses accepting it too. So like I said, I have a network here that I didn't realize. I did the golf tournament last year and just briefly wanted to speak to people on a high level about it. And I think now that we are even more in like a bear trend, and I've explained to people, hey, getting into it now, accumulating it over the years, you know, this is kind of how cycles work. And, you know, you could be very happy with your efforts, rather than maybe trying to do this in the height of it all. A lot of people would be pissed off. They're getting Bitcoin Cash at 1,600 and it was down to 300. So I think the opportunity is right, the pricing is right, the location is right, the network's ready for it. And I just want to be loud with it. And that's where the Flipstarter really comes in, to have a proper marketing budget for an area of the size, and want to show the community that it's there. And also I want to return value. And I'm not, like I said, every dollar will be used on the campaigns. It's the way I want this money to be used is to create more value for the Bitcoin Cash I hold, you know, not necessarily so I can make money from it. That's not my interest in Bitcoin Cash. It's to create more value for the coins of everyone in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like you were saying at the start, it's people, just got to understand the incentives here, right? Which is the the same reason. Well, it's not the only reason, but it's definitely a part of it. Is that I do this podcast. You're doing your onboarding. Everybody in the community is incentivized by definition. If you're in the community, the way your ticket, the way you buy in is you hold some BCH, and then once you're doing that, well, it's up to you to make it worth something, basically, right? Which is that there's only 21 million coins, and any value created within the network just proportionally distributes out to anyone in the network. We don't have the federal government sucking away just huge chunks of all the value we create. That doesn't exist. The only people getting paid are the miners, but the miners are not causing you grief. When have they ever come around and fucked with you? Never. And you're paying them transaction fees that are so small you don't even notice, right? They're not, I mean, obviously the new coins are going to them as well too, but that subsidy is going to be gone before too long. So we've kind of got to make this fly with enough traction and stuff before it gets to that point. And that's what obviously the BTC side are not factoring in. There's been some separate discussion related to some of these upgrades where they're sort of starting to wonder, hey, guys, what do we do? What's the long-term plan here? What upgrades are we making? How are we going to fund all this stuff? And there was some of that, and then it quickly turned into, nah, it's not a problem. It's all fine.
Oh.
And there was even proposals to lower the block size because they were like, well, maybe there won't be enough fees. Problem solved. We'll just lower the block size, spike the fees, and the miners will get paid. But I mean, then everyone will ditch the chain, but they don't realize that. So
yeah, yesterday I was actually I did a presentation. He's not onboarded yet. He's interested. One of his servers, actually, a busboy is there. He was from El Salvador, and he actually had a Chivo wallet. And actually, I sent him some BTC into it. And it's interesting, like the wallet, the Chivo wallet, is preset to take the BTC to turn into fiat. And so I showed him some Bitcoin Cash and like the difference of the network fee and all that. And he was like, wow, I never even really knew that. And I was explaining how like this wallet here, like you have the keys to it. This wallet, it's the government's. And it really got him thinking more. He's like, wow, I never, really thought of that. What's going on with it. But that was a really cool experience to see the Chivo wallet and actually use it and have a live experience there with there. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. And like I said, I've already been off to the races, and again, I appreciate everyone who's contributed, and we'll see if it comes through. And either way, I'm gonna give 100, and I'm gonna throw my event this year. I'm gonna do the absolutely best I can for the community, regardless.
Yeah.
I feel like I treat it like I treated my startup businesses. Like, you have to put everything into it. When I started this company here, I used to work, 78 hours a week here. And then I would go do like work bar mitzvahs and games at nights on the weekends. I didn't want to take any money out of the business. Like, I got to keep all that in there. And if I can make any money anywhere to pay my bills. And that's kind of what you need. And the biggest thing I do want to give to the supporters that support like Flipstarters, they really do deserve value of their coins. And I think everything we're doing here, from the podcast to all the adoption to the SmartBCH, it's an ecosystem that will get deserved. It will get the price appreciation it deserves. I don't know when, but you can tell it's such a vibrant community. They do deserve it. These people that are funding these campaigns, Mark's, all the different Flipstarters. We've had quite a few funded recently, so it's a good sign for the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's it. So everybody can check out West Palm, WESTPALM BCH.US. And that links straight in there to the Flipstarter. It's more than half funded, so we just need a few more people to get in the mix there. And I guess even if it didn't get funded, you could always, I don't know that people have really tried this, but this is certainly an angle where you could just redo another Flipstarter, but for maybe, half or whatever you did get. And obviously people would have to redonate in again. Maybe some of them wouldn't do it, but a few people could then just chip in again there, and you would know, oh, okay, I have about this amount of support. There's actually nothing stopping that. And to be honest, I think there's definitely still some experimentation and innovation that needs to go on in the Flipstarter space in terms of people choosing, the right amount of funding, which is a bit of a guessing game to begin with. But on the other hand, it could also be, you can do a Flipstarter. You could do it for literally 1 BCH, and the chances you get funded would be pretty high. Do that, deliver it, put up the results, then do another one and ask for 3 BCH or 5, and sort of step it up that way. I think, you already have a decent, profile and rep in the community, and sort of evidence that you're not just going to scam and be gone tomorrow.
Right.
But some other people might not have that, but they could get involved that way if they were prepared to put in the work, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if I would necessarily redo it right away. I would still put forward my efforts and want to show the community and speak to other people in the, other local, or I just want to speak to people and make sure I consulted a lot with Mark and other people who've been successful on everything I did with it. I try to learn from other people. So I don't know if I would necessarily run back to get it. Like I would probably fund most of it and do the best on my own to, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. if I would want to redo it. That's, I wouldn't want to be, I think not getting a Flipstarter funded is a sign that maybe I need to work on myself a little bit more and present my value. I really want to recalculate for a while. If my presentation and my efforts weren't shown and marketed properly, I'd probably wait a while before redoing that. Now, I wouldn't blame anyone but myself.
Fair enough. Taking responsibility. That's the entrepreneur, self-hustle attitude, right? It's just us taking over. And okay. So I also just want to get your thoughts. I mean, there's always message to the community at the end, but I'm just curious. It's a while since we've had a chat. How do you think the community's doing? Are you getting the same vibes as me that this is a chance we can fucking crush it? We can, really, really make it happen. Am I just high on my own supply here, or like?
Well, certainly since you go back in the time machine, we had our first conversation. We've done so much, so much building, so much innovation that there's lots of reasons to be fired up. And I said it before, but I do think if you want to get out and onboard and do that as a strategy and find it useful, I do find it so fascinating that, again, I'm in the business. I compete with a bunch of other local businesses for customers. No other chains are competing with me out there to have a cryptocurrency. I don't see BPC out there. I don't see Dash. I don't see anyone. So it's a huge opportunity and to get adoption. And a lot of times people will ask, how can I, why don't I accept Bitcoin or Ethereum? I'm like, well, if you're going to accept those currencies, it doesn't make economic sense to pay for it. So there's this is when it's really useful as cash. There are others, and show them that system. So, but the message to the community, I don't think you're high in your own supply. It is always important to check your echo chamber and speak to people with disagreeing opinions. And I actually, over this weekend, I had a barbecue with a prominent BSV figure too. I wanted to hear other opinions and thoughts. So I'll share with you more off stream here that, I'm always looking for different things. I'll always look for different opinions and ways to do things. And, but I think the BCH community is a very special one. Some of the best people I've really ever, worked with are in this community. And you can just tell from the heart, it's a project of passion. And I'll never lose that. And that's why it's something I feel worthwhile investing my time, money, and resources into, because it's a future world I want to see. And I do think in this version of the multiverse, if there's a multiverse I'm living in, I'll get to live in that version of the multiverse, not the status.
The one where it doesn't work. Yeah. US, the what's it called? CBDC comes in and just turns into dystopian hell with everybody, right. Walking around with a government drone following them everywhere, tracking their wallet or some, Black Mirror type scenario. Definitely, we could end up that way, but it's on us to make it happen and not let the world be worse off forever after. That. All right, let's get the next slide then. We're coming up to 2 hours here, so we're getting into the final run home. Community comment of the week comes from the one and only Roger Veer. He tweeted, "Today marks an entire year since my last tweet. Think about how quickly the time goes. Make sure you are spending it on important things. Hashtag family, hashtag friends, hashtag cryptocurrency, and hashtag freedom." And how can you not love this? I mean, that's really what it's all about. He's been disconnected from all this Twitter. Like, he's a big hitter on Twitter. He's got more than 750,000 followers. I think he's nearly up in that million rate. He's a big bitch. But is he spending all his time arguing with people on Twitter? No, he's living a good life with the things that are important and just checking in on Twitter, when he feels he needs to. And it's just such a contrast to, Peter McCormick or whoever other sort of influencers that are all day on there shilling their coins and doing this and that, whereas he's focused on what matters in life, and you love to see it, basically. So
glad to see Roger back. Roger's been super kind to me. I find it so fascinating that I'm actually sitting here on the podcast and get to interact with people that that brought me into the space. Roger, I remember when there used to be a YouTube channel called Adam Kokesh, And Roger wanted to have a debate with him and Bernie Sanders and donate $100,000 in Bitcoin to make it happen. And that led me to Roger Ver, and then that led me to understand crypto, how it could actually work after getting through Peter Schiff for years. So grateful to have Roger. He's literally has no more reason to even, has done so well and create an ecosystem. The monetary system has rewarded him, and he's still out building, because again, in a project like Bitcoin Cash that I think grabs you by the heart and, wants you to have build this future world that really allows economic freedom for everyone. And, glad to see Roger back. And again, glad to, I've had the opportunity to speak with him. He helped me with my tournament, and glad to see whatever he wants to do in the future. He's the biggest donor to my flipstarter. So thank you for that, Roger. And Jeremy, you're number 3 right now. So thank you for that, brother.
I gotta rank up. I gotta make a couple of crypto billion and then get in there on the top. That's all right. Give me 15 years. He had a bit of a head start, so we'll see what we can do about that.
but he really opened my eyes to the idea when he came into crypto. He not only bought a bag of coins, but he did what we're doing, and then he got involved and created the businesses that made Bitcoin more valuable. That's the way I view Bitcoin Cash right now too. It was first for me, it was more of an investment and using a little bit, finding it interesting, if this could happen. And then, people like him and like you guys here, maybe like, let me get involved. Let me see how I can contribute and try to inspire other people to have that same revelation, that they can actually create, value to this decentralized system. And there's no better person to look at than the first investor in crypto related startups ever. So
that's it.
And proof that you can make huge impact in the world and you can join the conversation pretty quickly. So good to see you back, Roger.
Absolutely. All right. Meme of the week comes from JonDo at Time, spelt with a 1, stranger on Twitter. He wrote 4 levels of Bitcoiner, and it's that meme of the expanding galaxy brain, which I personally find excellent because it's just so evocative of so many things, really. But it's got Bitcoin is digital gold with the small brain. Bitcoin is a P2P electronic cash system with a lit up regular sized brain. Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin with the brain starting to go galactic mode. And then Bitcoin Cash is cash with just the exploding rays of enlightenment. And I just saw this one this week and I thought, that's great. That's it. People start out with this digital gold crap. They eventually figure out, wait a second, it was supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system. Then they figure out, wait a second, the branding got stolen. And at the end of the day, they just come down to, wait, none of this matters unless it's not even about Bitcoin. It's about cash. It's about trading. It's about commerce. And it's about, being part of an economy, right? And that just, to me, I was like, that sums it up right there.
They're missing one level of enlightenment.
Which is what? Fuck the shitcoins.
It's Bitcoin will be cash.
Bitcoin will be cash. Obviously.
Did you see that today?
Yeah, I saw you were getting in there. You were tagging it onto people's posts, yeah.
I like the Bitcoin Cash as cash or Bcash. And a lot of the demonstrations I do with people to try to explain to them what a non-custodial wallet is. It is literally just cash. So I go like, this is my wallet. I bought it from some company. So like the Bitcoin.com wallet you now have on your phone is like this wallet, but the money inside is actually my money inside it. So if I lose my money, like my wallet, I lose my money, but I can actually protect it, which is better than this, by backing it up. And they literally see it's just cash. They ask how to use it with their POS system. I'm like, well, how do you treat cash? And it always goes back that it is just like cash. You can move it, you can hold it, you can have sovereign control of it. You don't have to ask anyone permission to take it out or pay fees or pay. Some people pay fees to banks to hold their money. You can literally have all these tools. And you really feel these things closer. Obviously, you guys have been using and holding for a while, but as you explain it to people and show them how to use it, this really hits home. That especially that 4th level, and people are so amazed by it. Like my money lives in these 12 words. What? Like they're so fascinated by the concept of it. And I also explain to them you can use custodial features too if you don't want to have the hassle of it. You can have your money sent to Coinbase or something like that too. So, but they have the choice.
Yeah, damn, that physical metaphor of the wallet is like the wallet, but it's like a company sold you that wallet. I've never thought of that, but that's a pretty
I have a
pretty
lot
solid
of
way
little techniques. Come down and onboard
Really?
with me, Jeremy. I'll fly
Yeah,
you in.
yeah. I'm up for it, man. I'm up for it. We'll let those travel restrictions time out on the US as soon as that's sorted.
I
I'll be
I
there,
have
man.
someone. He actually texted me while he's here. He's coming in. He wants to come down and onboard with me too. He hit me up. He's on come back from vacation. I think he lives in Orlando. He's driving down just to onboard with me for a couple of days. I've had a couple people. Someone in New Jersey reached out to me too, asked me different tools I've been using. So literally, it's happening. It's spreading, and luckily the success I've learned from others, I'm doing, and people are being inspired by it. And before you know it, it'll be the world reserve currency.
That's it. I love that when I saw when you put in your flip starter. The first sentence was like, "Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm gonna make BCH the global reserve currency." I was like, "That's it, bam, we're on it, going to number one, baby." That's it.
You inspired that to me. The way you plugged it.
Glad to hear it. That's just where you got to hit that. You know why that's the vision? Because there is no bigger vision. The mountain doesn't get any higher than that. You're going to number one. Everyone in the fucking world is going to use this. That's it. No other coin can come in with, well, we're going to be the interplanetary currency. Get out of here with that. Like, you're going to be the national currency of El Salvador. We're going to be the global reserve currency.
Well, you definitely feel like the throne is for taking in the next 20 or so years. Like something's dynamic going to change. So we need to we're doing everything we can ourselves to make ourselves the most opportunistic one. So we got some runway here and some work to do.
Got to jump on that. Like, just got to be in there. That's what a lot of coins. They're sitting around waiting for their bags to appreciate or waiting for fiat to die, which it is slowly doing. Yeah, but it's not about waiting. It's about proactivity. Like just being better than the slowest runner isn't enough, right? If fiat is slowly dying, it's about being out there, the one that is pushing harder than the competition, who is just in there, and I think the community that's what changing the game. That's what it was all about, who can put that in their headphones, get fired up. That was the idea. And I think we can definitely see some of that over the next year. I think things are gonna definitely ramp up for us. Okay, next slide is message to the community. I mean, you already put in a little bit of that, but as always on this show, just what do people need to hear?
Yeah, well, actually, after seeing Roger's tweet, it kind of brought some other thoughts to me, and message to the community is taking that time to spend with people. In the fall, I kind of fell into like this existential crisis. I had a lot of people close to me pass away, and it made me think about life differently. And but I've always kind of followed things of passion. Like, I feel like I could have a large YouTube channel if I pumped you what was going to be exciting next. But following passions, spending time with loved ones, and that's why the Bitcoin Cash community is a place I'm happy to call home and make friends in. And I think that's what maybe Roger was doing a lot of the past year, even though he did a lot of work behind the scenes. I don't think he took a breath from 2011 to the time he maybe took off, and he deserves that. So I think all of us should make sure to spend that time, and we get a short time here to do things. So do things that you love and find value to other people. So that'd be my message to the community.
Great message. You only get today. That's been really on my mind a lot. My mate George, who was on the show recently, he's been loving David Goggins. I don't know if anybody knows him, but he's a inspirational speaker, fitness type guy, and he's just one of his things. Nobody cares what you did yesterday. That's it. It doesn't matter. Did you? People like to think of themselves. Oh, I go to the gym all the time. Well, when was the last time you went? Oh, I go twice a week. Did you go twice this week? No. All right, there you go. Problem, you might have thought, even if it was last week or a month ago, whatever. Things fade out. If you're not hitting it today, you're not shit. So that's it. Get the most out of every single day. I've been drinking this Coca-Cola here to the late night stream with the sugar.
I love it. I'm on the H2O.
No, look at this. Like, I've got the water here as well too. I'm not messing about. All right, I got plenty of hydration. I got the 5 liters ready to go right here. So bit of everything.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, that's solid message to the community. And last slide, as always, we hit our 2 hours. All right, Bitcoin Cash podcast donations, as always, on the slide. Thank you very much to the donators. Absolutely love it. Get that peer-to-peer economy happening. Start guide, FAQ, links, www.bitcoincashpodcast.com. Also check out Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute. Get around. Here we go. Am I getting a cheeky donation live on the screen?
I've been in it, spreading a lot lately, so
loving it. Loving it. Anyway, thanks to all the donators, including Ryan. Thanks to my Patreon, Ricky, and shout outs as well for the week. My shout out goes to Tam and Liv. They know who they are, who I was, and also Violetta. But the first two, I was in London last week, and I ended up crashing on their couch through a friend of a friend, and that was great. We had a really good chat at about 2 a.m. with some beers, and I sent them some BCH, and they were loving it. They're in that mindset of the world's just wrecked us in terms of buying a house and stuff is just impossible. So people are just there. Our mind is just opening so fast to like, we need an alternative system. Like everybody's getting the message. So anyway, hopefully they're loving it, and I'm sure maybe they listen to this podcast as well. And Violetta, for similar reasons, who I was chatting to about BCH recently too, similar scenario. Any shout out from you, Ryan?
I mean, of course, everyone that's participated in the Flipstarter, everyone watching the podcast, thank you for your time. And and feel free to hit me up on any of my platforms. I'm glad to help. And a lot of people reached out to me with my latest efforts and whatever I could do to share, more on what I do. And, I'm happy to meet more people and learn more things. And, the first time I actually spoke to Ian Blass is when he shared the documentary, the shout out for that. I think the video has over 6,000 views now. It's really climbing up there. When you share the slide, it only had like 600. It's really gaining traction. The truth is getting out. You can only hold it down for so long. Eventually reach everyone. So shout out to him for sharing that. And Jeremy, great job narrating it. His voice sounds familiar.
yeah, exactly. I did enjoy it. It took a long time, to be honest. It was a couple months of just doing like a few sec, because it's whatever it is, 45 minutes, and every section had to translate it into the English and then narrate it back, and it would usually take 3 or 4 takes per like 30-second segment, because it's not perfect, but I tried to sort of line it up with the speed of the original documentary as well too. There are a couple of gaps, and it's not all perfectly smooth, but that it's kind of in the ballpark. But thanks also to those guys like Tono Vigilancia and in Argentina. They're just doing a killer job, and they deserve all the views and people saying that they're loving the documentary, because it's just great. And I'm sure it will go down as a classic. I think it'll keep blowing up as time goes on. The more BCH people are wondering what's going on with BCH, that seems like it will become the go-to documentary of just watch this 45 minutes. Here's everything you need to know. What was the problem with the governments? How did Bitcoin start? How does the mining incentives play into it? Like what's all going? There's a couple of those great graphics that just show like exactly how it's going to all fall apart if the miners don't get paid, and then what happened with the censorship, and what happened with the accepting going into reverse, and how did it all end up with BCH? And at the end, when he talks about that was the best bit as well too, at the end, where he just talks about, I was in the BTC camp. That's the most powerful thing of it all, where he says, look, I was telling everybody about BTC until I saw over and over what's going on with BCH, and then my eyes were open to the truth, and I realized that it had been a lie all this time. That's just such a
can we share that with Jeremy Rubin?
Yes, well, that's it. We'll have to hit him up with just, here you go, mate. This will explain your problems. Jet, any shout outs?
I do. This is kind of surprising for me. Normally I don't do this. I've got quite a few this week. So give a shout out to Aaron, Bitcoin Payment Modules, Soiled Cold, Sunny, and a fellow whose handle is just some monkey emojis. Those guys have been helping out quite a lot over the past 2 days for an open source Bitcoin Cash ATM. And right now, the biggest issue is just dealing with shipping and logistics because we're in a bunch of different countries, right? So shout out to those guys, and then shout out to, I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Corentin, who made Bitcash, the Python library, because without that, then the whole project would have been impossible. So I'm very, very happy that people are like, as soon as it was brought up, it was like, yes, let's do this. And everyone that's involved right now seems very interested, and it's been awesome just being a part of so far.
All right. Great passion and energy. You love to hear it. The community just kicking off all kinds of projects left, right, and center. That's the magic of decentralization. You know, it's just always going on every day and night. Somebody's got a project on the boil and finding a little successful niche there. So yeah, that'll do it for this episode, and till next time.
A single chance for the world, a single moment in time. Bankers captures all, our cryptocurrency flies. Gets to decide, Phoenix fly from the flame. Bitcoin BCH, forever changing the game.
I'm not asking for praise and I'm not begging for help. If something needs to get done, I'll fucking do it myself. That's decentralized work, let's be totally clear. Cause we're all on a team, on the crypto frontier. Want a better free world? You volunteer, spread the word every day. Paying cash peer-to-peer, go out and put in the reps. That's how this got in your ear. If you believe in this war, it's time to pick up a spear. Cause a leaderless world ain't just gonna appear. Power lies in the mirror, it's time to conquer your fears. Ignore the government shill, kick your life up a gear. When you look up the mountain and the summit ain't near, take a look at the ground, the next step is pretty clear. Revolution is paid for with our blood, sweat and tears. All over the globe, it's been a rough few years. The population locked down while politicians